Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? We're gonna bring Jackie in here now. And hey, Jackie, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Do you want to know what I did for the past 3 minutes trying to wait for this live stream?
What?
How to figure out how to get my thing to come in just right for
What do you
my
got
culture,
there?
my
What do you
cultural
get?
appropriation.
Very nice. Very. Oh, yes. Very nice.
Which is interesting because we're talking about Juneteenth, and I didn't realize the element of Native Americans that were involved in this as well in terms of the celebration process. So before we get too far ahead on the Juneteenth thing, because we were talking about potentially that being the topic, because why, Jackie?
Because we can't figure out where the heck Candace Owens' documentary, "The Greatest Lie Ever Told," the George Floyd story, we can't figure it. And I've searched the interwebs uh, very deeply. I can't find out nothing.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit here. Let's go to the first comment we have here. This comment was up here before we even started the live stream, and Rabbi says, "Been waiting for this almost as much as Terror on the Prairie." Which, by the way, we'll talk about that if you want to. It looked like it was delayed because it was originally announced for May. I think they wanted to get, what is that?
I don't know. I was just wondering that. WIAW. Oh, what
Oh,
is
what
the
is a
woman?
woman? What is a woman? Yes, and Terror out first. That makes sense.
It does
Um,
make sense, but I think, Rabbi, what we're worried about is number one, I'm afraid it's never going to come out because, Candace can go pretty hard. And maybe there was things in there that the lawyers said you can't say that or you can't put that in there because you could, she might have inferred things or displayed information in such a way that they could have been sued and they didn't want to get sued. I'm worried about that. Uh, I mean, I think actually my big worry is that they had to tone it down. I'm hoping that she has some bombshells and they had to get all their ducks in a row before they put it on. But I do think it's odd that they're not. I didn't watch Ben today, and I usually watch him, and usually he'll make a comment, but you can find that comment if you search. And I couldn't even find a comment about it. So I don't know what's going on. Interestingly enough, the documentary is on IMDb with a rating of 8 out of 10 stars, but no one's ever seen it. So I don't know why it has that rating. I don't know what that's about.
well, IMDb basically anyone can log on and rate something, which is why Casablanca, by the way, I checked this yesterday, is 43. Give me a break.
What
Give me a
movie?
break. Casablanca.
Oh,
It's
43.
it out of I mean, it's still a high score if you look at the thousands of movies that have come out, but that should be in the top 10 of
That
everybody's
should be a
list.
special category for classics that can't be duplicated.
Yeah, yeah. But so IMDb, my point is they let you do anything really. There's no regulation there. So, but it's good they got a high score, meaning people want to see it. So Rabbi here says this is the only channel covering this. I doubt it, but I haven't found many. I do know that our first live stream went crazy, Jackie, which didn't show the movie. It did really well on Rumble, which, by the way, we're streaming on Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. So if, like I said, if we get too heated here, we can kick off. I can kick off the YouTube feed and the Facebook feed, and we can go strictly with Rumble and say whatever we want.
And then we can say what we want, right? I was just thinking, I'm surprised on YouTube nothing even came up in my feed, but I think Rumble is a more likely spot.
Yeah.
I
And
don't know, Rabbi. I think there's something's rotten in Denmark, as we say. I don't know what's going on. The other thing I want to say about Candace, I was talking to Alexis this morning. I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but I think Candace got herself a stylist because
Oh yeah.
she's really looking much more together with the makeup, the hair, and the clothes, which is appropriate for her public persona now. But you can definitely see that she's leveled up.
She's funny because early on she didn't care. She would really wake up in the morning and go on live stream in front of literally millions of people.
I
I know her
think
and Cardi
someone
B.
tells her she's not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, you go look at the Cardi B when her and Cardi B were going at
Oh
it.
yeah.
She would literally, Cardi B be all made up on her little live stream, whatever. But Candace be like, "Look, I just got out of the shower, and my hair's messed up, but whatever, go. Let me tell you what's going on. Hair's out of
What do
place."
you think about that? Do you think that makes her look less legitimate?
Candace.
Yeah, and even getting in tit for tat fights with people.
Well, tell you what. See, here's the thing with her. She's a fighter, and I think she wants to come across as genuine and real, and I think that's where that comes from. but I think she's running a company now and a business, and she needs to have more of the elements. So it has to kind of, I think, need to fade more to the side because it can get in the way of her brand.
Especially if you get caught up. You know that expression, the lion doesn't pay any attention to the yapping of small dogs. And that's where she needs to be now. She can't get down in the dirt with those knuckleheads.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
Hi, Mark.
And I want to apologize to Mark because we had this was in your fault. This was with Kira. We had a rescheduling there and we didn't get the word out quickly enough. So I'm putting in place certain protocols that when we go live, we'll do it a certain way. That way we won't have to do a retraction, but things happen. But he's back, and he says here, but I enjoy how Kyle and guests get down to the nuts and bolts thing. I appreciate that, Mark. Coming from you, dude, seriously, I have utmost respect, and I would say this on live air, I get a little intimidated when Mark's on, because I just feel like I have to have a standard that I have to uphold that's even higher than my own standard, which is, I think, pretty high. I mean,
your standard's pretty high, though.
Yeah, but but here's the thing, Jackie, with this new computer, I become more and more lazy because now I can do things in half the time and not worry about it. The old PC, I have to shut it down. I have to go through checklists. This one, I can reboot it and be back up in 5 minutes. The other one, it would take 30 minutes. No joke.
That sounds like you needed a computer like this.
So now I'm like, I can do it later. Just like that whole Rumble thing, I did the last minute. So anyway, thanks, Rabbi. So let's get into this a little bit. So let's just kind of cover where we were before. And let's just go back to the George Floyd whole situation. It just gets back. And then if we have time, we'll get into some Juneteenth stuff, because I think they were going to use this date as a launch point, which I thought would be a really good idea. So let's get back to, I think that happened in May, it was 2020, I believe. And here's my recollection of the whole matter without any notes, because I haven't really prepared for this. So I'm going off of my own recollection. And this is kind of how it would be if I was on the street a month from now, because I don't look at this every single day. George Floyd was, he had a history, which we all do. We all have our histories. Not like him, of course, but we all aren't perfect. Was counterfeiting bills. And then there was a problem there. The store who didn't like the bills he was giving called the cops. And at some point in time, he was going to some sort of state where he was actually complaining about him not breathing and him having an issue when it came to the cops. And the cops put him into the car because he asked to be put in the car. And then he pushed himself out of the car onto the ground because he asked to be put on the ground. And then, of course, we know the scene where Chauvin had his knee on his neck, which we talked about before, which was a procedure which was authorized by Minneapolis Police Department, which I've had done to me personally by a cop, and we talked about later. And then all hell breaks loose. Is that what you have as a high level of the incidents of George Floyd, Jackie?
Yeah. Yes. A couple interesting points to that, though, is number one, the kid that was working at the store that got the counterfeit bill, he told George Floyd he was going to call the cops, and George Floyd went outside and got in his car and sat there. Now, if you have any familiarity with criminals, you know, like any criminal in his right mind would have split. He did not. He stayed and hung out. And that's the first clue to me that George Floyd was not in his right mind at all.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's kind of what this documentary was supposed to be showing, was roommates and I mean, I guess roommates, or friends, and I guess relatives potentially.
And his girlfriend.
And his girlfriend as well. Let's see here. Rabbi says, really, that sucks. I was waiting for this so much based on the trailer. And yeah, that was what I was hoping for. Also, just delayed for technical difficulties. I even sent an email. Did you really? Wow. Did they respond back to you, Rabbi?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Did they answer?
Oh, okay. He said here. Had not heard yet. This is just weird. I agree. And here's the problem here. And I'm not sure. All right, let me just get on the Daily Wire a little bit. They're doing a fantastic job over there. But this, I hope it doesn't, but this could really damper some of it. It could really mess them up, because they had 3 really good live streams with, I guess, with the first one, I guess it was, they didn't produce the movie, but they took it on. And the second one was Shut In. And then you had What Is a Woman, which is fantastic. And then you had Terror on the Prairie, which was really violent, but I thought was really, really excellent. After you got halfway through, when the plot twist kicked in, I liked it even more. And so now you have this, which would, personally, I signed up for this, and I haven't gotten my money's worth in terms of this program. So I don't know. What's your thoughts in terms of this damaging
what do you
them?
think the off chance is that they didn't publicize it because of what happened with What Is a Woman? And maybe it is going to be on tonight at 8:00, but they just aren't talking about it. I mean, that's as possible as anything else.
Yes, exactly. So, in fact, if you go back and look at what happened with the live stream on What Is a Woman, they had a denial of service attack, which just simply means they have automated services that go and hit the website all at the same time, trying to overwhelm the processing so that it won't actually show something. And it did cause them problem. It limited their distribution by about 30%. And they had a huge showing, but because of that denial of service attack, they weren't able to do it. So there's ways around it, but it takes money and infrastructure to really do it. And I'm not sure if they had the money and infrastructure to really, keep it to the point where it's not an issue.
I think, I don't know if they have the money. I obviously have no idea what their finances are, but I know they just put $100 million into kids programming. And I think that
really?
a conservative channel like Daily Wire Operation, I think there's probably even some people that are very quietly backing them and quietly, be glad to help them with financing. You can't be in Hollywood and be a conservative. But I think there are people that are quietly like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Once I saw their live stream prior to What Is a Woman, I will probably, if Lord willing, because times can happen where I need to buy milk versus buying a subscription to a news service. But I'm not going to get rid of my Daily Wire subscription ever.
I think
because I believe in what they're doing.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying. If I never watch another episode of them, I will still continue that payment because they put out their whole business model on that live stream. Go check it out. It's really, 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 really good.
Kyle, I've been a Daily Wire member for about 2 or 3 years. I'm ahead of you, but there is a couple other channels I support because I think it's important that we put our support behind. I mean, there's nothing on television I can watch. We all know about mainstream media, right or left, is full of liars. And did you see the Fox News had a story about a transgender child on, and they had the family on, and they were. So we have to stick to these cable news outlets because there is no. These like YouTube news outlets on Rumble, things like that, because there's really nothing else on regular cable TV for me to watch and have any respect for as a news channel.
Yeah, Nicole on here, the conservative take, we have a person who comes on. We call her the Right Therapist. She has her own show. Her last one she did covered that very episode that you're talking about Fox News and about how, well, I don't want to get into that as much, but essentially that at 5 or 6 years old, you can't choose what you want to be. I mean, in terms of being, a dragon slayer, a princess, Superman, or the opposite sex. And so she goes into that, and that show was talking about how the parents did it, not the kids. The parents made the choice for the
parents.
Kids. Yeah.
It's like having a vegan cat or dog. You know who made that choice. You know who made that choice.
That's a good one. Yeah, exactly right. The cat's like, come on, dude. Seriously?
Give me some meat.
Dude. Oh, man. Anyway, I'm sorry for being disorganized here, but I'm kind of like just going over the comments here. Have you seen Terror on the Prairie, Jackie?
I haven't seen it. No, and I saw the ads for it, but I just haven't sat down and watched it.
Well, do you mind violence?
I really try to avoid violence.
Yeah,
but I know it's pretty violent. But I also think that that's good for Daily Wire because if they had only lovey-dovey Christian movies on, or like Pure, the channel Pure, which has lovey-dovey good time stuff, I think it's good that they can be like rough and tough and still be conservative.
Well, I gave it a really high score on my review. I gave it 3.5 stars out of 4. And the violence was off-putting, but I'd be a hypocrite if I, were saying that I can't watch that, because I watch The Godfather. I watch all kinds of movies with violence. But to me, the violence tells you how bad these people are and what they're capable of doing, and it adds to the tension. Because you don't want to see happen. I don't want to spoil anything. You don't want to see things happen to people that you care for in the film. And so the violence really adds a level of stress, which is insane.
Drama.
There's no soundtrack in this film. It's no music. It's all like, wind and, people walking through the gravel. It's intense, dude. It's an intense, insanely intense film. So kudos to Daily Wire for this film. I think it was brilliant, personally.
Good for them. And did you happen to see the one? There was the one about the school shooter.
No. The short film.
No, the Daily Wire has a movie they showed about 6 months ago.
Oh no, that's why I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember the name of that first film because that film.
I can't remember the title, but then there was another one about
no, I have not.
A girl that got locked in the house, like in the pantry. Her boyfriend owed a drug dealer money, and she got locked in, and she didn't know where her babies was. That was another good one. I saw about half of that.
Yeah, Shut In is also, we did a review on that one too, but not that first movie we mentioned about the school shooting. No. Yeah, the trailer gives me chills. It makes me look.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Well, I will reserve the right. Of course, if they go straight Fox News, I got to stop my subscription. But if they at least contain the same level of what they're doing now in terms of their philosophy, and don't sell us out, then of course I won't pull out.
I can't picture Jeremy Boring, and I don't know if you've ever listened to him, an interview with him. He's an interesting person. And I think he has very high morals, and I think that Ben, and I also think that Michael Knowles, I think everybody on that channel, lives by a different code and has nothing to do with what's popular with the mainstream people.
And the cool thing about those guys is they don't really agree with each other.
No, they don't.
Because Candace says some things that I know Ben doesn't like, I know for a fact.
I think that's important.
Yeah, exactly.
And now that I heard that Newsmax won't let anybody talk about 2,000 Mules, there's really no channel to get any news on.
We can't talk about that at all here.
No, you cannot. No, we won't.
We can do it. We can do a last 5-minute segment. You can pull the YouTube stream and talk about it. I can go off on that one. I didn't even put the review of that movie on YouTube.
You didn't?
I didn't. I knew I couldn't.
Yeah,
you couldn't find the trailer. When you can't find the trailer on YouTube, you're wasting your effort there. So
I heard that in the January 6th testimony, they had a clip of President Trump talking. So YouTube pulled down the testimony at that kangaroo court they got going on for January 6th because Trump was speaking during it, as part of their evidence.
Oh, yes, you're exactly right. I do remember that, and it's so in your face, on the nose, embarrassing for it. There lacks journalistic integrity across the board. Not that social media needs to have that, but come on, it's so obvious.
Well, I think that YouTube and many channels on YouTube try to adhere to being a news source, and they try to be, but it's very hard when your stuff gets pulled down all the time.
Yeah, there's 100%. And they brought up Andrew Breitbart here, who I think his death was really, really shaky, by the way. I won't get into that. My opinions there.
Were the Clintons involved?
Well, he went to the bar, took a drink, and next thing he dropped dead on the street, I believe. And I don't know, did he get, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything, but it was really, really suspicious, in my opinion. Andrew Breitbart was absolutely a genius. Was talking about this when he said politics is downstream from culture. And that's why this channel really came to be. Why we chose the pop culture and politics. First, it was TV, movies, and politics filtered right. Now it's just pop culture and politics. But Candace Owens, who pretty much said the same thing that Breitbart said, is what got me to come up with the idea for this channel.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because if you look at the logo, it's a clapperboard. It's a take one, take two. And I don't know if you remember, I actually had a black fist as one of the conceptual logos.
That. That's right.
Remember that? I had a black fist, but then I realized that was like a really bad thing to have. So I was like, because I wanted to show that we're conservatives, but we're not punks, right?
We're not.
We'll go out there.
We're trying to fight the power.
Exactly. That's kind of where I came from. I came from that whole black leftist movement in college and crap. So, but I thought that was probably not a good way to go in terms of the logo and the branding of the company. So anyway, let's talk some more about even Jeremy. Who's that? Who's that guy?
Jeremy Boring is the other partner for Daily Wire, like Ben Shapiro's partner. And he's an interesting man in himself.
What do you know about him?
Well, I watched a show once where I guess it must have been on Daily Wire like a year ago, and he talked about how he went to California from Texas and he thought he was going to get into show business. And there was like a secret group of people that studied the Bible and were conservative, and he met, I can't remember who else was in the group. You know who might have been in the group? Uh, 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 John Boyd. That's how you met John Boyd, right? So there was like secret organization of conservative and Christian. I guess they were all Christian if they were studying the Bible. And like he was in Hollywood and he was working on stuff for a long time, but he couldn't get any traction. And Ben Shapiro was actually lived in Los Angeles, and somehow they got together and they decided to form this company.
Amazing. Well, I'll tell you what. I think these guys in 5 years are going to be like Netflix, man. I'm not saying I'm saying they're going to. I don't think they're going to be the same. Well, who knows? Who knows? Because the way Hollywood's going, it could be like Netflix in general. But in terms of, maybe a third of Netflix in 3 years.
They might be, because I think if you adhere to principles that everybody agrees on, and I just remembered where I saw all that information. So Ben Shapiro interviewed Jeremy Boring for one of his, Sunday morning shows. And it's very interesting. But anyway, I think that places like Netflix, which can't decide if they're woke or not, they don't really have any standards that they adhere to. They adhere to whatever way the wind's blowing. And I think sometimes it takes a little while, but I think organizations like that will eventually collapse.
I think they will too. They'll implode because wokeism essentially is a cannibalistic style of it's a model for business, because you alienate everyone else so much that they become the majority eventually. And so what Daily Wire wants to do is become like that. But I don't think it'd be presumptuous or even silly to say they'll be as big as Netflix in terms of just the scope of the business. But I think they can have a big enough market share that they're just as effective, if not more effective, at their target audience. And you mentioned you spent $100 million, you said, on children's programming.
That's what they put into the children's programming they're developing.
Okay, well, that in and of itself is going to be huge. I mean, we saw what happened with Pixar and this latest film with Buzz Lightyear. It dropped off by about 15% of what they expected the earnings to be, which is crazy. Pixar movies are almost always debut number one. The last 3 films were on straight to streaming service. So this was the first one to come back since COVID, and it didn't beat out the dinosaurs. Jurassic
and it did
World.
Even worse, I read overseas. I think they said it cost between 300 and 500 million to make it, which is a joke. But
That's
anyway,
crazy. Wow.
They're never going to make that money back right now. And what movie's the biggest hit right now?
I think Jurassic World or Top Gun.
Top Gun,
the Maverick, yeah.
Which is old-fashioned, pro-American, doing the right thing, and all the stuff that we've always loved. And I think that that gay kiss in Toy Story, like the whole thing is for an agenda and to make a statement. It has nothing to do with anything. Why are you having toys kiss anyway?
Yeah. I think we had Bo Peep kiss Tom Hanks on the cheek, and like in the first one, I believe. But
you're right, she did.
Yeah, but that was but anyway, yeah. So he said he liked Tearing the Prayer. It's very brutal. I agree. Like, I didn't see Bone Tomahawk.
What's Bone Tomahawk? Is that a movie?
I didn't see that movie. I imagine it probably is. Same producer, really, he said.
Oh yeah.
But violence works as part of the story. That's what I was saying. If it works for the story, that's fine. I think Tarantino, his violence he used violence as an art form. I don't necessarily. That's an argument you can make, but I think violence in terms of driving the story and the tension, that's what's really, to me, what's really. I can definitely watch stuff for that.
Well, did you like Kill Bill? Wasn't that a Tarantino movie?
Kill Bill was a stylistic violence movie.
I really liked it.
Oh, it was great. Don't get me wrong. Yeah,
I really liked that movie.
Yeah.
I just like how kitschy it was, and it was kind of funny. And
yeah, Kill Bill was awesome. But I'm just saying, it's just the violence there was for effect, right? It wasn't, it was just So
it was almost like a orchestrated dance or something. The way that he threw that.
That's it.
Run, hide, fight. That's the movie.
Thank you. We should give you some thank yous after this. Yeah, and Shut In was next. And Jax, Mark says this to you, Jax. He said, "I don't know how far I'm reading in, but the violence and terror is foreshadowing the current political events."
Well, this is what I think. I hope not. And something I've been thinking quite a lot is like the people saying the end of America. I think it's going to take a lot more than what's going on right now to end America. And I believe the majority of people in this country think similar to how we think. They may not be as far right, but I think that unfortunately the East Coast and the West Coast drive media, and that's what you see. But there's a whole bunch of people in the middle, and I think the midterms will be will indicate that. And I think that we're going to be okay. I think it was a close call. But once again, what's my favorite thing to harp on? Convention of states, term limits. That swamp, I mean, it's worse than you could possibly have imagined. And I think if we don't clean the swamp, we're never gonna get any better. Things aren't going to get better. I think America's going to be okay. And I don't think we're going to come to violence. I'm not the one that has flour and beans and stuff packed in big things in my basement. Although some people I know do. I'm like hedging my bets. I have some canned goods. I've been buying extra meat and put it in the freezer. I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to be okay. Because you know what? Most of us just want to live our lives. People want to like go on vacations, see their grandchildren, join the marching band, go play, go bowl with the Moose Lodge. You know, that's what people want to do.
Yeah.
They're not interested in all this bull crap all the time.
Yeah.
And most of all, I mean, for me, and I don't know any of the viewers, please chime in. But you're to the point where like enough already. I don't want. It was like COVID. I'm finished. I don't want to talk about this, think about this, or focus on this anymore. I want to move on. And the media, you know, they struggle. They don't want you to move on.
They don't, because it gets ratings. And I can get into that whole thing about metro society versus, you know, centralized, decentralized, and how, like you mentioned it perfectly, about how it's moving away from the coast, the mainstream media, from print media now to whoever has an iPhone or cell phone. They're the journalists now, and those are the ones where news is coming from, you know. And that whole paradigm is still changing and evolving.
There's a lot of really good reporters, and you know, I mean, we've talked about this before. I was a Democrat for 35 years before I was a Republican, but people like Glenn Greenwald, Jimmy Dore, Tim Pool, there's a ton of people on the internet, and once everybody figures out, if the people stand, the game is over. You know, like we shouldn't be enemies with each other. We should be enemies with big pharma, you know, big insurance companies, big medical conglomerates. That's who the enemy should be. But I don't think that people really have the energy, working people, especially if you think about it, if you have to work all day, go home, make dinner for your family, like true working people, not people in New York City or Hollywood. You got too much to do to be like all bogged down with this all the time. You know, you already have a big to-do list. If I'm off this weekend, I got to do my garden and do my yard. I don't want to like make any bombs or go attack anybody.
Right. No, exactly. We got lives to live. And so if you, Rabbi, I'm not sure if you've been on here. Has Rabbi been here on this channel before? Do you think? Just so you know, just for Rabbi and those who don't know, is that we actually go through the comments, and I actually comment and link those or tag them. We come back to them later so that we can get to them, because it's hard when we're actually talking. I don't want to interrupt Jackie, and so I'll actually tag it and we'll get back to it, at least at the end, if nowhere else. So I saw this one, so I want to put it there immediately because this is kind of why the whole live stream is going. So if you're just joining us, JR Money says, so when is the movie dropping? I thought it was being debuted today. I went over to dailywire.com. Nothing on it right now.
Nothing. We don't know, JR. We don't know what's going on. They're not talking, and we don't know.
Thank you so much for that, Rabbi. I really appreciate that contribution.
I like the comments, and I like to talk to the audience. We got to get a call-in number.
Yeah, if anyone here knows a good way of doing it, we have a Discord server. It's set up, but it's extremely complicated in terms of.
It is a pain.
Getting in, you need a moderator. You have to go to a room, and it works. I mean, there are bigger channels that do it, but you know,
What if you just got a 1-800 number and then put the phone on speaker?
Hey, that's old school. That's old school. Yeah, that will work too. We'll have to come up with something. All right, so let me get back to scenes real quickly here. Jack says, I'm reading about, okay, we saw that already. Mark doesn't want to spoil anything. Fauci Unmasked. I hadn't heard about that one. Had you heard about that movie? Michael Knowles?
I did. Oh, did he watch that? Is that what the rabbi said?
I think he hosted it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think I did see like an ad for that. I might have been sick of I might have been sick at Fauci. And actually, though, I saw a great clip this week of Rand Paul destroying Fauci when he's trying to push that baby vaccine. And Rand Paul killed him, wiped him.
I missed that clip.
You know what? I think it might have been on Dave Rubin, who's another person that's trying to just talk about things. He was a leftist, but now he's kind of conservative. There's a plenty of media out there for people to listen to.
Good. Yeah, I haven't really done in that. I haven't been dealing with the coup for a while just because of other things that are going on. But that's still a battle we're fighting, and that's whatever. Rabbi here says, here's what I can say about Tara without spoiling. Gina does well. I agree. In fact, Gina Carano, who, by the way, got kicked off of Disney Plus for The Mandalorian for some tweets that weren't even
that bad.
It was totally truthful. It was out of proportion. They wanted a reason to get rid of her. But anyway, she did great. Nick Cersei was incredible. My gosh, she was so sinister. And all the other actors show their good game, good writing, good direction. I agree, 100%. And you're right. The musical score, not having it, is really different, and it's eerie, and it's really real. It's really, edgy and real and raw, and it's like, it's terrifying. So we talked about that. JR Money.
So did we tell JR we don't know what the answer is? And anybody that finds out anything, it'd be great to know.
That'd be awesome to know. And if we have nothing to talk about, which I don't think that'll be a problem tonight, we will talk about Juneteenth a little bit. I don't particularly, I won't go there. Let's see here. Here in Oklahoma, this is Plan B. Thank God we are mostly conservative and, most importantly, Christians. In fact, I love Oklahoma and West Virginia. I'll say this: the past two elections, there are only two states in the country where every single county voted for one candidate. In this case, Trump. It was Oklahoma and West Virginia for two straight presidential elections. Every county voted for Trump in both states. Bravo.
I was in Oklahoma quite a bit in 2019. I logged like 30,000 miles going to Oklahoma, and I love it. I love Tulsa, and I like Oklahoma City. I like the people. They're so friendly and nice. I love Oklahoma.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to spend maybe the last 5 minutes just on Rumble so I can go off. I want to talk about, I'm starring this guy right here. We talk about January 6th on Rumble at the end. So bookmark the Rumble channel. We're Rumble. If you go to Rumble, the Conservative Take, or go to our website, there's a link there. We'll jump over there, maybe 5 minutes at the end to kind of talk about some things we can't talk about here. But yeah, he was always part of the Daily Wire. Good. This guy's very knowledgeable.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, it's called Daily Wire Backstage. It's really good. That's what their pre-show.
They do that actually quite a bit.
We need a name for our show then, for our pre-show show. But it can't be backstage.
It can't be backstage.
Maybe front stage. We'll think about it. Also, his own razor company because of what Harry's did. Oh, Harry's Razors. Wow. I was kind of shocked.
You've seen that commercial. You've seen Jeremy Boring's commercial for his razors, haven't you?
Yes.
No, Kyle, you've seen it, right?
I use clippers, but no, I don't recall. I know Harry's Razors, but I don't recall.
No. So Harry's Razors pulled their support of the Daily Wire because one person complained about something, so they pulled it off, and now Jeremy Boring unveiled a company selling his own razors, and the commercial is amazing, first of all. Okay. But the day that they came out, I think they might have sold out. They had such a response.
Sports programming shows are a very good idea too. Yeah, they're really ambitious, it seems like. So yeah, from what I heard in that live stream and that backstage, they really are, and they really have a lot of things planned. So I'm looking forward to what's going on. Thank you be insulting Kim. I think Rabbi's got a little like humor like Mark has. So
yeah, Rabbi,
please keep coming back. I mean, not just because you gave us two contributions. That's awesome. But I love your input. It's great.
Somebody made a comment about Nick Searcy was in another show, and the comment came up.
Yeah, let me bring it back.
What was it?
It's called the. I didn't want to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I got you. I got you.
I got it.
I didn't realize that was the same guy.
I got it starred. In fact, what we may do in from all shows going forward. At the last point when I go through all the comments, I might just do that only on Rumble, just for exclusively there, just so we can have an opportunity to do it and never forget. And that way I can say what I want to say.
You know what I'd really like to do is if Candace's documentary comes out, I'd like to watch it and then do a show afterwards and have everybody, all your viewers come on and everybody says their comments, because, people catch things that I didn't see and I might catch things you didn't see. And I think that, a lot of times if I like a show or a movie, I'll watch it 3 or 4 times to make sure I get everything out of it.
Yeah, and that's a good idea. Only problem with that is maybe you can do it with Alexis, because I'm typically at that point doing a review of that film to beat the mad rush for YouTube. But
well, yeah, that would be 2 different shows, though. I mean, I think it'll be okay. We'll see.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if we can get, how long do you think the show should run? Half hour to an hour? Or?
Well, if it's really good, maybe an hour, and especially if. Look how hyped everybody is, and they all want to come on and say what they thought, and I'm sure there'll be a million points that we want to show. And look at this, and did you notice that this happened then? I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting, and I also think that the smart viewers that you have,
yes,
they're going to hear and catch things and draw inference that we might not be able to draw because they have other information. You have really smart viewers.
Yeah, I think an hour delay to any kind of review would be that'd be worth it. I think, because that hour won't kill us. If you wait 48 hours for a review, that's kind of a deal breaker a lot of times. But yeah, an hour won't kill us. But when things drop, I tend to just get right on it and try and get it as quickly as possible.
You like to do that.
But to your point though, Jackie, doing that will get more insight to the review eventually. Because my reviews miss so much information. I watch it and I just do a review. And it's like, man, I look back, I could have done a little better there because I didn't think about all the angles. And people in the comments say, Kyle, you forgot this.
Right. And plus, it's going to be jam-packed. It's going to be jam-packed with stuff. There's going to be a million pieces of information to try to remember and things that we don't know anything about.
Right. Oh, Jack, you should see me in the theater when I'm doing like What is a Woman? I'm like, not the What is a Woman, but the one with Kirk Cameron. I'm in the dark in the theater making notes, like pages and pages of notes. I'm like, it's like. It's anyway.
As long as you're not being noisy.
Well,
and yelling out at the screen.
Put your phone off. I need the phone for the light. Turn your phone off up front. So speaking of documentaries, I found an in-depth, this is Mark, depth look at what goes through the woke mind from the bed in the morning to the bathroom. Is called Mad God. We got to see that. Is
he joking or is that true?
I hope
he's Googling Mad God right now.
I hope he's being serious because that would be awesome to watch. Okay, so let me get to this quickly. Let me see. Got a bunch of comments here, Jack. It's kind of hard to get through some of this. Half kidding. I'm just gonna go through this quickly. Yeah, I agree. He said Mad God was utterly senseless. It was a really screwy film. It took me 3 times to get through it.
Yeah, the review. This is the review. The most achingly beautiful, plotless, textural, atmospheric nightmare you've ever had. The entire film exudes both dread, mourning, and devotional passion.
What year did it come out?
I don't know. You got to join Shudder to get more information.
Shudder? I never heard of Shudder.
Like Shudder, like this kind of Shudder, not Shudder like you put on your window.
Oh, okay.
So that it seems like it might be on a creepy channel.
Yeah, I like Red Pilling. It's awesome. I think Jordan Peele, all those guys are amazing.
Rabbi Steve, if you're on YouTube and you scamper around, there's so many Black men and women and couples between the ages of, I would say, 25 and 45 that have a channel now where they review Thomas Sowell. They listen to different debates, all the stuff that we've seen a million times, and it's getting so popular. I need to be Black to make some money on this. I'm the wrong color. Nobody cares what I think.
Well, I've been labeled. Someone actually said that I was being paid by Daily Wire to give positive reviews. Come on, dude.
There's a million people like you, or not a million. I would say I could think of 5 off the top of my head, and I check them out a little bit just to see. But some of the people, they don't have any background knowledge, and there's one channel that seems to be popular, but he stops these videos and goes, "What? I didn't know that."
Good point there, Plan B. Yeah, I agree, Jackie.
That's it. LFR family. That's the one. But that guy, Rabbi, don't you think, like, doesn't it get on your nerves sometimes when he acts like everything is brand new news to him? And it's stuff like, he's like in stage 1 and we're on stage 10.
Who's LFR? Help me out.
LFR is a channel, and I've seen videos with both the man. It's a black gentleman, about, I don't know, 40 maybe, because sometimes he has like a kid on, or I don't know if it's other people in his family, and he reviews classic pieces of video that we've all seen a million times, like different woke things. Today he had a Trump rally on, and I didn't even watch the whole thing, but a lot of it is really old news, and it's like he's just discovering it. So I don't find that as interesting as somebody that, you know, was red pilled, say, a year ago. It's like every day he got the red pill for the first time.
Yeah, a reaction channel, basically.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris. Okay, cool. So we got some more comments here. People just chatting away. That's for elections. Every district was Republicans. Nice. How about let's just talk about elections real quickly. That district in Texas that was pretty much Democrat for
the one that flipped, Maya.
Yeah. So I mean that was crazy. So you mentioned midterms, just for lack of a better transition point here. You said that you're pretty optimistic about the midterms. I am too, by the way. Have you been following anything in terms of?
Well, I try not to. Some people are very hyperbolic, and they said it's going to be a red wave. Blah, blah. You know, I'm not trying to like get in anybody's face. I just watch and see. I think that rightly or wrongly, there's been some stuff in the news that the average American is like, they've had it up to here. That gas pump is a big problem.
It is.
People are, and the food. My food bills are so high. Everything. My dishwasher's broken and they can't get it. It's brand new, but they can't get a control panel to fix it. I mean, let's face it. The previous president would have handled baby formula. You see women on TV crying. They can't get any formula for their baby. I mean, come on. And then another thing that's really got me aggravated. Well, of course, when the places in Texas, all the illegal immigrants had formula piled up to the ceiling. But, you know, the millions of illegals that are just pouring through our borders, and no one seems to care.
Yeah. And I don't have time to tell you my Juneteenth story at the event. But I went to the DNC booth at a Juneteenth function here in my local town Saturday. And long story short, I got kicked out of the DNC because they didn't want to talk to me anymore. There was 4 of them against 1, just literal me. And you better get up out of here now. We're done. But I brought up illegal immigration. I brought up illegal aliens. And that's one issue that they just couldn't deal with. They were done after that. Because I said, look, you know, I don't feel racial here, but they're racial, so I'm going to be racial back. I said, look, dude, you know, and everyone in this booth is black people in this Juneteenth booth, whatever. So I said, look, dude, I said, black people have bled, sweat, and died for this country and are entitled to the spoils of that effort. But yet you're going to let and advocate for people to come across the border illegally and then kick you to the back of the bus. And you're okay with that. Oh, they were pissed.
It's facts. Rita, I just wanted to say I love Epic Times, and I watch Facts Matters with Roman. And Kyle, you should check that out too. That guy's really on point. Every night he has a video about some information that is important and that people aren't talking about, and he is factual. He's not hyperbolic. He doesn't get dramatic. He just tells you what's going on, and it's really good.
Well, yeah, you got to keep me in line, Jackie, because there's so much stuff going on. I like the fact that I can bounce things off of you because what I'm missing, you actually have, which is awesome. Actually, you're smarter than me, too. I mean, let's just be clear.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. My brain is like, mad God, believe it, come out. Do you want to tell, there's some new people here. Do you want to tell people your background, what your experiences, and what you bring to the table in terms of, you know, the whole thing?
Well, I will say that I think I have a little bit of view to both sides of the world. I was raised, you know, obviously I'm white middle class, but I worked in the prison system as a nurse for a long time. I found it very enjoyable and very rewarding. I worked on death row. I worked on Rikers Island. My board certification is in behavioral health. And it really showed me, for instance, I did a little survey one time. I worked with what they call justice involved individuals. So that's people on parole. That's what that means. But I had to do health intakes, and I did like 120, and I found maybe 30 people that were actually raised with their father. All the other men were not, or they didn't even know who their father was, or they weren't raised with them, or, I met them twice. And I mean, there's just a lot you can really draw parallels to that have nothing to do with race. It has so much more to do with what works and what doesn't. So, and I was a Democrat, and the reason I stopped being a Democrat was Barack Obama. I didn't like him from day one, and I was very suspicious. And I had a lot of white friends tell me, if you don't vote for him, then you're racist. That's why you're not voting for him. And I'm like, I think he might be a rotten person. I just smelled like a streak of
Right.
lack of morality in him. And I was very concerned when I saw clips of his preacher there in Chicago. That was
Reverend Wright.
He was a maniac. And anybody that could go to that church, as I go to church, and what my preacher says is important to me, and I care about it, and I have to mostly agree with it. So when I saw this man going to every Sunday sit in front of a preacher that talks some lies from the devil, I knew that he probably wasn't a good person.
I 100% agree. Yeah. I just want to bring that up there, 'cause I'm not sure. We have some new people coming on. I'm not sure they knew your background. I didn't realize you did death row. We got to talk about that off camera. That's really interesting. But so we were talking about, you mentioned Father's Day, so let's bring that up real quickly. Father's Day just happened, and so happy Father's Day to everyone out there, who were co-opted by Juneteenth, which I think was, well, I won't go there either. However, but you raised an interesting point that the fatherlessness effort, the fatherlessness is a huge issue. And I think I heard a statistic that people, I'm going to say this wrong, but it was pretty much number of people that were in this particular prison, and this is locally in North Carolina, locally saying how many of them had two parents in the home who are in this particular prison. 0 had two parents in the home, and it goes down from there to one parent and no parents. So it's just, it's so important.
And if you've seen Uncle Tom or studied the situation at all, up until, even right after slavery, Black families were a mother and a father in the home. And up until, if I recall, it wasn't like the late 50s, it was still, or 60s, it was still 2-parent households. And now the percentage of 2-parent Black homes it's shocking. It's like less than half. And by the way, same for white families with one parent in the home. It's not the skin color. Yes, get me out of there. I know.
Rabbi's got sense of humor. It's got sense of humor.
I'm white, baby.
So Rabbi's got to go soon. So thank you for contributing so much. But while we're talking, there's a chat about culture war, dealing with like us being able to win it. Like this one here by Rabbi said as well, we're getting some miracles, some divine providence. I agree. And divine providence is what George Washington, really what got him through. He just felt that he was going to get through because God's going to make it so. I can get on George Washington for a long time. I love George Washington.
Yeah, talk about who's smarter. Your historical knowledge is far superior to mine. But I wanted to say about that's the other piece that I didn't even go through all my thoughts, but I believe that America will survive as long as God wants it to survive. And I think that it's far bigger than the idiots that we have and, running things right now. This country, I believe I believe that God set this country on its course. And I believe that it will last, just the same as why I don't believe in climate change. I mean, I do, but I'm just saying human beings have this ego that we think we control stuff. God is on the throne. And God has a special plan for America, and it continues to be the freest country in the world. People continue to risk their lives, except for right now because Joe Biden opened the door, but they risk their lives to get into this country because they all know it's the greatest place in the world. We have the most freedom, and we have the most opportunity here. So I don't think these bad actors that are in charge right now, I don't think they're going to be able to permanently damage it.
And with that being said, we're done the live stream. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Drop the mic.
That's perfect. I love that. That's great. Rita says here, how do those of us in actual middle class take it? We can't work enough hours to keep up with the cost of crazy inflation. Oh my gosh. We are the people who are scrapping by. Let me just first say this before Rabbi said Happy Juneteenth. Let me just say real quickly about that. Thank you so much for that. And as long as it's in the proper perspective, I'm good. But I don't like weaponizing it as a holiday that's being co-opted by other groups so they can get their message out. If it's a patriotic holiday where we share, where everyone truly was free in this country, then that is what we need to celebrate. This back to Africa stuff that they're co-opting and this other stuff they're co-opting. I'm not so much about that. I'm about the fact that it was a holiday where America came together, where Republicans and white men with guns freed blacks 100%. So all you people who are woke about that, you have to understand it was a team effort for us to be free as this country. And
I never knew till today in preparation for this show. I never could understand. What do you mean they didn't know they were free? I didn't realize it was because that part of Texas was Confederate control and they wouldn't give up their slaves.
Galveston, Texas. In fact, I did a status debate today, which essentially it said in Facebook, I said that runaway slaves. Now I do understand that Sherman had a situation where many drowned because they couldn't follow them. But by and large, if you followed the Union Army, they set the lines of where the territory was. Wherever the Union Army's battle lines were, that's where the free country was free. And it ebbed and flowed up and down as the war went. And so they followed them because they knew if they were with the Union Army, they were safe. They were going to be free. And to your point there, Jackie, if it's a Confederate controlled area, then they're not going to be free because it has to be taken by force eventually. The army freed the slaves, not Lincoln. Lincoln's principles and his executive order in principle freed it, but it had to be backed up and enforced by guns and an army.
And white Republicans.
Because not a single Republican ever owned a slave. So do you want to talk to Rita's comment here about the middle class and how we're dealing?
I think it's really hard, Rita, and I think a lot of people are making choices that they aren't so pleasant of what they can pay, what they can't pay, how to get by and cutting corners. And I kind of wonder how this is going to last until 2024 because things are tight. But I do. So when people talk about you better prepare, I think that maybe we will have to prepare for things like that. And also shortages and, not going out to eat some we have to do things. I'm cooking at home. But me and my son, we're taking turns now. We're cooking dinner. I'm going to Costco. I just got a Costco membership last week so I could buy in bulk. The regular food store, even here in North Carolina, I used to go to Harris Teeter, and you just can't afford to go there to get, your big load. You can go there and pick up maybe 5 or 6 things they don't have at Costco. Aldi is a good place to shop. Even with the air conditioning, I'm watching electricity. For me and other people in my neighborhood are complaining the water and the electricity seem to be more expensive as well, too.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, we're going to struggle through this. But if we get through November, I think we can get through a lot of things done legislatively because they're not going to be playing that, against us as much. Anyway, so let me just say this. So before someone calls me Uncle Tom and a sellout, yes, white men freed the slaves, but blacks helped too. Okay. The 54th Massachusetts, Fort Wagner, Glory, all those guys, it was a team effort. Women, Quakers, this whole country is a team effort. And Jefferson put in the Declaration of Independence the possibility of freeing the slaves back then. But we wouldn't have had a country because, South Carolina and Georgia wouldn't have gone. North Carolina wouldn't have gone with it because they were slave owners. And that was a big part of their economy. There was no replacement for it. So they kicked the can down the road till, Civil War. But they put in the possibility of it happening. How many countries out there still have slavery and it's never been resolved because it was never put in their founding documents as a possibility that God said you have rights.
Right. And everybody's like, you heard during all this with the 1619, like America invented slavery. That is so crazy. It's so non-fact based. There's still slavery right now in many countries. The biggest one is Libya that drives me crazy with the open air slave market. But there's other countries that have slavery right now. And America wasn't too far behind of the Western countries of ending slavery. So I think England was right before us.
Technically speaking, they voted before us, but ours was enacted before theirs.
Our implementation was quicker, but they voted for it first.
Correct. I think any victory we can get because they're going to bash America. So I'm going to be if I want to be petty, whatever, I'll be petty. So anyway, so the fatherlessness is an epidemic. Absolutely. Let me see. Take God out of the equation. Society
There's the
up.
plan B's got it right there.
Yep.
School shootings. There's so many things because we weren't allowed to have God and things. And I'm a Christian, but you can have the Jewish God. I'm not adhering to that, but you remember, because I was born in the 60s. I was raised where you couldn't talk, you weren't allowed to pray in school. We had to have we could have a quiet time or a meditation time. But I mean, I was raised with the Pledge of Allegiance, but I think maybe in the late 70s and 80s, they stopped with the Pledge of Allegiance. They certainly stopped with any kind of praying. But I think people are pushing back. I've seen there's a group called Freedom Alliance, and they have commercials on YouTube, and they tell stories about different teenagers that took their school district to court because they wanted to form a student group, a Bible study, or things like that. They are fighting back. Here in North Carolina, the proliferation of non-public schools, I've never seen so many different types of schooling other than public here. There's Christian academies, there's leadership academies, there's tons of homeschooling. People have had it with public school. And I mean, I don't even... as bad as it was, and then they took all the kids out of school for a year in the big cities. I mean, I would never let my kid go to public school. Forget even the critical race theory and all that. It's dangerous, and bad things happen. And the unisex bathrooms, like, everybody should pull their kids out of public school, unless you know for a fact of what's going on there. But the homeschooling co-ops are booming. Even on Long Island, where I used to live, I knew quite a few people that had their kids in a homeschool co-op.
Yeah. Co-ops are very important because that adds to the question of your kid's not socialized, which I don't think is an issue.
What? Homeschools they have band, they have cheerleading, they have all kinds of outside of classroom activities. So that's not true.
Yeah, exactly right.
As Babylon B says, homeschool your kid and they have less of a chance of being a gay communist.
Yep. I want to comment on this quickly because this is really, really good here. King Face, the late King Face, who was a friend of mine, I can call him my friend, mentioned this in one of the videos that we did with him. He said, if it's so bad today, how come blacks could be so successful in these areas like this at a time when people were getting lynched, on a daily basis in the South, and even in the North, there was riots in Chicago, riots in New York and Boston. It wasn't just, sin to sin. You didn't cross the Mason-Dixon line all of a sudden you're in paradise. There was sin because it's a man heart issue, but right. How come we could be so bad in terms of overt oppression and still do so much better on education, family, everything? And there's no answer to that because they don't want to give the whole notion of accountability, even in earshot.
I think too, before the late 60s, so there was a set of rules that everybody followed regardless of your color. You got married, then you had your kids. Everybody took care of their property. You didn't let your kids run in the street. Even other grown-ups could yell at your kid and discipline your child, and it was no problem because the grown-up was always right. The teacher was always right. And all that seems to be over.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I missed that. I was reading. Say your last part. Sorry.
No, I just said that the set of rules that we all lived by was different, and that's what's really changed. And I think I have to tell you, when I was maybe 28, I was working as a nurse in the ICU, and I told everybody, if I don't get married by the time I'm 30, I'm going to the sperm bank, and I can raise a child by myself because I'm a strong, independent woman, and I can do that. And then that's not how it worked out. I ended up getting married and having children, but then I got divorced, and you're out of your mind if you think any single parent single man or single woman can raise your children as well as two-parent household. You know why? Because when you're busy working and bringing home money, especially like I lived on Long Island, I always had at least 2 or maybe sometimes 3 jobs. You're too tired and you're not there. And when you are there, you can't make sure the homework is done. And I mean, it's impossible, especially when you have boys like I do, and they get to be like 12 or 13 and they start having their own mind. I mean, I'm very, very lucky that my children are okay. They never got arrested and they never got on drugs or anything like that. But it's an impossibility. It's an impossibility almost.
Yeah. What Rita says here about the follow up on her comment, all these is great, but even all these prices are getting up there now. But it's still better than the other ones, I think.
Rita's right. I know, Rita. I wasn't trying to be unsympathetic. I just for myself, I'm doing things that I kind of didn't do before, and now I really have to. And I don't know. I'm hoping it gets old. I'm hoping something happens. Everybody says that your local elections are the most important ones, and hopefully in some areas, some of the local elections will turn things red, and maybe somehow things are going to ease up. But the only other thing is, I don't think there's anybody coming to save us, so we have to depend on the Lord.
Well, yeah, eventually Christ himself will come and save us, but
I'm waiting. Yeah. I'm ready, Lord.
Oh, by the way, I skipped one. Yeah, they I don't get as much stuff as I used to. People like Kylie Fontana, she's catching it, and it's affecting her in a lot of ways. But she's a strong woman. And I see people getting attacked, and I realize that they're getting attacked because they're actually making an effort. Once I start getting more attacked, then this channel is really going to be growing, because it just means that we're making a difference at a level that they can't stand. I got my Instagram account deleted because we were crushing on Instagram, crushing it. It took a year to get to the point where it was, and right when it was just hitting, they just yanked it. So
why did they yank it?
They didn't give a reason. I'm appealing it now, and I have I won't say. I'll tell you off camera what I'm doing with it. But
all right.
But yeah,
go back to that previous year. This one. What's the NSBA? No, go back one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have no idea.
Let's throw the NSBA out the window too. Probably I agree, but I'm not really sure what the NSBA is.
Google that. I can't.
Okay, I will.
You mind?
No.
Okay. So Chris says 30%. Mark, this is about the fatherlessness rate. Yeah, that's huge. That's incredible. Chris, it's a nuclear family. Good idea, no matter what. Exactly. I hate bringing up the race thing, but I believe in fighting fire with fire. And if these Democrats want to try and shame, go ahead.
It's the national school boards and the teachers union. I do think that the teachers union is responsible partially for the downfall of our country. The teachers union is very powerful. Elon Musk just came out recently and said, I don't think average Americans understand how powerful the unions are. They did that thing about, they had this big meeting for something about electric cars, and they didn't invite Elon Musk because he won't let the union come into Tesla. So who's the biggest manufacturer of electric cars right now?
Exactly right. Check out a movie called Whose Children Are They? That really shows you in depth how the school boards operate. And we interviewed two people that were actually in that movie. Kylie was in it, and so was our friend was in there as well. And it was just incredible how they actually were just blocking parents from educating their kids directly. Incredible.
That's why they fight school choice. And I think school choice is so important. And I think as taxpayers, it makes much more sense to give parents, this is the money, you pick out the school, because you know what would happen. Certain schools, the line would be down the block, and other schools, no one would step foot in because they don't deserve to survive.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where the free capital market gets into place. If you're not thriving, then maybe you should,
take a look. Take a look at yourself. Yeah. Mark, I couldn't agree more. And you know what I hear of? I saw YouTube the other day. I know it was Gad Sad, if anybody knows who that is. But he was talking about when we were kids, there was a show on TV, and they'd say, the most important person in the whole wide world is you, right? Which that's a terrible way to let children think like you're the most important person in the whole wide world. But that whole thing of like my truth. There's no my truth. There's the truth. So all of that shifting, really it's shifting of reality of, I was raised, children should be seen and not heard, which I think is a little rough, but, now we have to listen to what the 5-year-old wants to do because we don't want to hurt their feelings. We want to make sure that they grow up free and they can express themselves creatively, where, when I was a kid, that was a whack across. That was a backhand.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think we've kind of lost our minds, and we do give kids too much choice. Forget about transgender. They have too much choice. Like I know parents that will make 4 different dinners at night because each kid wants something else to eat. my kids complained all the time. None of their friends had to be at the dinner table. Their friends would get takeout. They eat when they get home. My kids were raised, everybody, you must be at the dinner table unless you're like involved in school sports, and you can miss dinner for that. But other than that, yes, you're coming to the table and you're having what we're serving. And if not, then you don't get any food. That's just it.
I'm watching Stranger Things, and this is a little bit not here. That we watch Stranger Things. This was set in 1983, the first season. Which, by the way, I was the same age of those kids. I was 13 in 83. So the kids in that particular movie are playing 13-year-old kids, and that's how it was. And to your point, they ate as a family in that show. And people ask, what was ages like? I said, watch Stranger Things, minus all the other stuff, of course. That didn't happen. But the way the kids acted, bantered, used profanity, and were just silly, all that stuff, that was how we acted. We had to camp by the kitchen phone because you couldn't go all over the house because you had to have a long cord to do anything. So all that stuff was true. And you're right. We ate as a family every single dinner and breakfast, actually, before we went to school. And so that's a big thing about the family being together, I think.
You know, when my kids were very little, the first pediatrician I took them to, they had this checklist, and they would ask you things that would indicate the future of your child. And one of them was if you ate meals together as a family. Another one was if you packed their lunch for school or if they ate the school food, because that's an indicator of possible. If they played an instrument. And I know they asked me if we had a gun in the home, and this was up in the north, so we don't need to go into details of that. But my brother said, tell them none of their business. But there are certain things that is better for your children. And you know how you can pack a lunch? If your husband makes enough money to support the family, or the wife does, and there's a parent at home packing that lunch. Which also I now believe is a much better way to live, but I didn't at the time. We thought parents could work. I mean, the latchkey kid came about in the 80s and the early 90s. That's when that term came about, when kids went home to empty houses. I don't think that's a good idea. And the biggest devil for kids, I don't know who agrees with me, this little baby right here, the cell phone and the social media. There's a lot of memes that show like God between your child's on the phone and God's protecting them. There's a lot of monsters on social media for children and a million different avenues. And that's another thing that I think we should think about cutting down on, letting our kids be on the cell phones.
Hey, guess what? We had a troll who tried to get a GIF on here. I'm smarter than you are, dude. I could tell, first of all, I know who comes through here. I know who is a person who's valued here. And your picture gave me a clue of what your political affiliation was. I'll leave it at that. And so I'm not going to put it up on the screen, Carlos. So sorry, try again. Dude, come on, man. You do better. Come on, trolls. Step up your game. I checked it on Facebook before I put it up there. The woke truth, I can cure cancer and AIDS, and they can't. It takes running a 5-gallon 4 gallons. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly right. So, I'm just going to block him in the future, so I won't have to worry about him in the future. So, bye-bye. Because look,
that means you're doing good if you have trolls, I think.
I don't mind the trolls, but I don't have time to spend debunking his. He's taking us off whatever. We can have another discussion on your meme, which was ridiculous, by the way. I won't even comment what it was, but that would just distract. That's what you want. You wanted to do that. So keep going. So pretty much what we're trying to do to our nation. Oh, Mark, yeah. So just he's been blocked, so he can't come back up. Awesome. All right, so we've been on here for about an hour 13.
We can talk, people. We can talk.
No, he was on Facebook. So I'll get a screen print of it. Show it to you, Mark. I do it right now. I'll do a screen print right now, just so I have it. Boom, and let me see. All right, well, whatever. I'll do it later. Anyway, so what do you think, Jackie? You want to go over to Rumble, or do you want to just stay here, or what do you want to do?
I don't know how much longer you want to go.
It's up to you.
I think we've kind of wore it out. I'm just giving my opinions on everything.
Okay, well, I'm gonna kill the Facebook feed.
But I would like, if anybody listening, or of course we will, if you find out anything about this Candace Owen documentary, I really like to know what's going on with it.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Well, the YouTube feed is, the Facebook feed is gone. I'm going to kill the YouTube feed. So if you guys can't go to Rumble, you can catch this on the stream on Rumble. You'll have it there. But I'm going to kill the YouTube stream right now.